So we are going to start the story today because we did all the pre-reading stuff yesterday on that video. Remember, you need to do it. We're going to have this packet for 3 weeks, and I am going to check it. So you need to make sure that you are marking up or actively reading the page. So don't just think that I'm putting it on there and not going to have you do it. So let's go through this. We're going to start with the story. If you get active reading and you want to do your own active reading, that's great. I hope that you do. Remember, I'm still just modeling to you. These are my thoughts. If you want to write them down to practice what I want you to do, that's fine. But hopefully maybe you can do it on your own these days. So everybody ready back there? Paige, are you ready? So the dog of Pompeii. And we did all the pre-reading yesterday, so I'm ready to read. Tito and his dog Bimbo. All right, I'm gonna put a smile there because here's a connection. I just think that's funny. I'm kind of chuckling inside. That's a funny name. Lived, if you could call it living, under the wall where it joined the inner gate. Okay, so these are the dogs. Tito, I wonder if Tito is the other dog or if that's his owner. So you see I have I wonder statements. Oops. They really didn't live there, they just slept there. They lived anywhere. Pompeii was one of the gayest of the old Latin towns. Now, I'm going to point this out just because I know what time period I am teaching in. This word gay has a different meaning than what you probably think it means. To be gay means to be happy. And that used to be a word that people used to use all the time to describe how they were feeling. Of the old Latin towns. But although Tito is never an unhappy boy, okay, I've answered my question. So Tito is a boy, so he is a character, probably the main character besides the dog. He was not exactly a merry one, okay? So that tells me a little bit of, it doesn't come right out and tell me he was not happy, but since I know what merry means, merry also means to be happy. He was the opposite of the town. So he was troubled. He wasn't a very, so that a character trait, remember what character traits are? Character traits are how you would describe somebody or describe yourself. And you want positive sounding character traits. You don't want someone to describe you as mean, nasty, angry. Those are all character traits. But so a character trait for Tito, can anybody tell me? How would you describe him already? Okay, young. Character traits are more like inside. And if he's not merry, can we put like he's sad maybe? Maybe lonely? The streets were always lively with shining chariots. Do you guys know what a chariot is? Okay, most of us know. It's boy, I'm gonna embarrass myself, but I'm gonna try and draw a chariot. It's like a cart that has like one wheel and it's pulled by like horses. All right, there's my chariot. I better label that so I remember what that is. And bright red trappings. There is a footnote. Trappings, ornamental coverings, or decorations. The open-air theaters rocked with laughing crowds. Sham battles and athletic sports were free for the asking in the great stadium. Once a year, the Caesar. Now, whenever I think of that, I always think of Julius Caesar, probably one of the most famous of all the Caesars. And down below, if you don't know what the word Caesar means, basically it's just a Roman emperor. Like we call our president president. In Rome, they called them Caesar. And there were many of them. Once a year the Caesar visited the pleasure city, and the fireworks lasted for days. The sacrifices in the Forum is the public square, were better than a show. But Tito saw none of these things. He was blind. Oh, wow. Wonder if he had been blind from birth. Okay. So that explains a lot to me. So that could be why he's not real happy, can't see. And back in the day, if you had a disability like that, you were a misfit in society. You weren't accepted. He was known to everyone in the poorest quarters, but no one could say how old he was. No one remembered his parents. No one could tell where he came from. Bimbo was another mystery. As long as people could remember seeing Tito, about 12 or 13 years, they had seen Bimbo. Bimbo had never left his side. He was not only dog, but nurse, pillow, playmate, mother, and father to Tito. So Bimbo is a very loyal dog. So I've done my active reading. Now let's go on the sides here and see if I can answer these questions. Yes, Logan? I can't hear you. You can't see? You can move if you need to. Oh, thank you. So over here, the analyzed visuals, they're talking about the picture on the next page. You want to make an inference about life in Pompeii based on the details in this image. And I'll flip it here in just a second. So do you remember what an inference is? What's an inference? You hear this word in science class as well. What's an inference? We've talked about it, and this is part of your active reading. An inference is an educated guess using all your reading strategies. Okay, it's not just an educated guess. You actually use your brain. It's the highest level of thinking. And you don't get a guess without having some kind of brain power behind it. So make sure that you know that it's not just an educated guess. You have to actually use your brain to get that guess, to make that inference. Sometimes people don't come out and tell us things. We have to analyze and use our active reading to figure out what they mean. So I think everybody is ready to look at the picture, and we want to make an inference about how life was during this time period. We know when it took place a long time ago in the Roman Empire, and I'm going to analyze the picture, and I'm going to look at, first of all, I'm looking at the sandals. I'm looking at the streets, they're stones, looking like where they get their water. Oh, they got to carry the water. Now, I know that this isn't the best copy. There's jugs here. So it looks like this must be a plate. They must not have water in their homes. And they wouldn't because it was a long time ago. They didn't have running water. Yes? How do you know that? You must have read something. How do you know that? Okay. Good. You're right. And what does the scroll represent? Why would you pick up on that? Because you're right. It is significant in this time period. Were they different? Were they separated from the normal people? What was the significance of that? Right, right. And that's where, if you study any history, and that's why you guys are lucky, and I know we don't appreciate it because we are spoiled in America. Things have been nice for us. But you can see, and also look at his dress. He looks like he has Maybe that's just his hair, but I know that they wore things around their foreheads like olive branches and stuff. But it's a sign of nobility, and only the richest people were allowed to learn. And so Cohen's right to pick up on that scroll. So this guy obviously is higher class. Remember, we'll talk about when we learn about the Titanic in April. Um, Society has been divided by social classes. You have the first class, the second class, and the third class. And things were really separated. The wealth was not spread amongst everybody. When America was established, people came over here and they took advantage of what was here, and they made lots of money, and they had the monopoly. You can tell that he's kind of looking at this guy, who obviously this must be Tito. You can tell he kind of looks like he's feeling the water, and just since we know that the dog and him are together, we know he's blind. But it looks like, doesn't look too rough of a time period to live in, but it looks like, you had to work to get your stuff. Historical fiction, if you watch the video, we talked about the genre historical fiction and what it is. I love historical fiction. I love to read about it because I like to learn. But historical fiction makes it into a story that makes it more interesting to learn about real events. The movie Titanic, most of you guys know that. That is historical fiction. The story of Jack and Rose is not true, but the ship, what happened to the ship, the people on the ship, those are all real people and all real events. But the main story makes it fiction. So reread lines 3 through 10. Which details in this passage tell you that this story takes place in the past? So lines 3 through 10, and remember, the lines are numbered. So 1, 2, 3, down to 10. So what are some things that let us know that this took place a long time ago? Can you tell me? Well, first of all, old Latin towns, right? We don't speak Latin anymore. I try and teach you some Latin roots because it's very important. Um, what else? Oh, I see. What else lets us know that this was in the past? Do we still drive around in chariots? No. So, and if you know of anything about the Roman Empire, you know that that was how they got around. Those were their cars. Anything else? I don't. Caesar. They don't have Caesars anymore, right? They have probably Italy and Rome. Do they? Is it a democracy? I think so. So they have presidents now. What else lets us know that this took place a long time ago? I don't see much else. Do you? I think we picked everything up. Okay, which one? Okay. Do we still have poor quarters in some cities today? Okay. Why did you think that? What, explain to me why that helped you think that that was okay. So you're just picturing, you have a lot of background with this, so you can visualize that. Absolutely. Good job. Okay, so on the back of the picture, let's continue reading our story. Now, obviously, you see the story is pretty long, so we're not going to finish it today. We may not finish it. We'll probably finish it this week, but then next week we'll do all the vocab pages and stuff. Just a reminder, remember yesterday there were vocab words on the classroom. Make sure you get those into your digital notebook. Don't forget the horse snake. Vocab words, I have gone in a couple times to digital notebooks, but I haven't this week. If you have those things done, just email me so I can go in and check them, especially if it's late, because I won't go back. I won't keep going back. Did I say Bimbo never left his master? Perhaps I better say comrade. Now I know that this comes from, I always think of Russia. And comrade, does anybody know what the word comrade means? Logan? It does. Friend or buddy, right. For if anyone was the master, it was Bimbo. I was wrong. Bimbo did trust Tito alone exactly 3 times a day. It was a fixed routine, a custom understood between boy and dog since the beginning of their friendship, and the way it worked was this. Early in the morning, shortly after dawn, while Tito was still dreaming, Bimbo would disappear. I have a thought. I wonder where he goes. I bet Bimbo probably is going to look for food. But you see, these are all thoughts that I am doing in my head. This is how much interaction I do when I read, because I know what I need to pay attention to, and I know what kind of questions that the test makers are going to ask me, and I know that I've been taught to pay attention to characters and their actions and their speech, right? Okay, so the bell's going to ring. I will continue with this. There will be another, so make sure you watch all the videos when you're not in class so that you're getting caught up, staying with us. What? Yes, it'll be in the same packet. This packet, we're going to have this packet for about at least 2 weeks, maybe 3. So don't forget to do the vocab from yesterday. Don't forget to make sure that you watch video number 1 and have this whole packet actively read.